Hello, my name is Bethany, and today we are talking about scale and how the government can operate effectively to meet the needs of the people. I'm going to be talking about the United States, and not just because I'm an American citizen. It's mostly because America is a giant country. I believe you can probably fit Europe in the entire country of America. Um, so that being said, I mean, our government has to find a way to make from California to Maine function. And by doing this, what they how they set it up is kind of what both Hobbes and Aristotle were talking about in our video today. I mean, not that I think that we should go and get bigger and conquer Canada just because having a bigger government is the best thing to do, like Hobbes is saying, the bigger the better, right? Not necessarily, because you can go to an extreme and be way too big and not be able to handle everything that's outside of the borders that you can't see. But I think America is right on the verge of being perfect in size. We can handle everything we got. But at the same time, as we have taken what Aristotle said and have small republics within the United States, because we have every state has their own capital and their own government that runs the state without having to go and run to Washington, D.C. every time something happens within a state. We can take care of our own business, which is fantastic. One of the articles I was reading, though, makes it sound a little bit more almost pessimistic when you think about how each state and or the government is run, because it said in John Stuart Mill and representative in the book, John Stuart Mill and representative government, it stated that the scales never hang exactly even because the Constitution must favor the strongest power in society. Yeah, pessimistic, right? I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, yes, if we have, say, all Democratic votes had come in and that was the strongest power that was placed in the Senate or whatever, yeah, okay, that's a stronger power. But at the same time, the president could be a Republican. Or if the Senate was all Republican, a president can be a Democrat. We have the option and we have the choice to choose which party we want in place. So it's not necessarily all about how the strongest power in society wins, because our government on this grand scale tried to make it as balanced as they could, and for the most part things do get balanced, because we can have Democrats in one party, in one area more, and then the Republicans in another area to balance them out. So I think that's kind of even. Sometimes it does swing one way or another, but then we have more elections and then it evens out. So our government, I think the American government has done its best to make sure that stays balanced. And then but I'm sorry, stuttering a little bit. I live in a small state, and sometimes, even though we do get to choose who we want to represent us, Vermont doesn't have very many representatives because our population is really low. I believe there's more people who live in the city of San Francisco than in the entire state of Vermont. That's how small we are. That's how small our population is. So our representation is kind of small, which means our voice may not be as heard or as loud as, say, bigger states or states with large cities in them. And what kind of makes me a little nervous is I was reading The Genuine Principle of the Ancient Saxon, or the English Constitution, and it says that, and I'm going to paraphrase because there's a lot of information and I didn't want to read it all because that would bore you. So basically what it was saying, that at one point the Saxons were broken up into small townships and villages and different areas, and they were called tithes. Now, when the king came in and kind of absorbed all of Saxony into his kingdom, The Thais, who always had representation before they were conquered by the king, no matter how rural or how far out they were, they had a representative that would come in. Now, once the sovereign came in and kind of took it over, he was like, sorry, no more rural areas are going to have a sovereign. You're all part of this larger township now, so whoever comes from the town is going to be your voice, even though he lives in a town and you guys live out in a farm. Doesn't matter. You guys don't get the voice anymore. These people are going to speak for you. And that makes me a little nervous, which is why I'm really glad that even though our population is small, we still have a representative. We still have people giving voice to those of us who are small in number. I am thankful that our government did that on on the scale that the government is doing. Because we are so big, they still keep in mind the smaller people. Yes, we don't have as many representatives, but we still have representation, and that's important. And one more thing I just wanted to throw out there, because we do get to choose who our president is. We do get to choose who our representatives are. We always have the vote, but I thought this was kind of neat because we have the vote and because our government is set up that on such a large scale the people can come together and choose. That especially with all of the voting coming out and all of that stuff happening now, it shows such a clear picture of how our government, though it may not be perfect, has been set up in a way that everybody's voices are heard and people are fighting for the needs of the people. But I did want to say this one thing, which I thought was kind of neat as I was doing my reading. And in a book called The Presidency in a Separate System, it states that clearly the president must become larger than themselves to fulfill their responsibilities and meet performance expectations. And then they go on to say that he has to set up groups to represent him in different areas so that he's not a dictator, but he's separating out the responsibility to people whom he trusts to make sure that he gets his plans done, or when we have their plans done. But it also stated a couple paragraphs or a couple sentences down that this organization will depend to a considerable extent on the personal experiential and political advantages of each president. So every time we get a president in there, and we get to choose and we get to vote, because that's our right as a people in this country, and our forefathers set it up that way, that we have to know that we chose the man, we chose the woman, we chose the party, and we hope that based on their experiences during their lead up to the vote, that it's going to be different with every president. No president's going to rule, I can't say rule, no president is going to lead the same way. Each president is different. Each president has to become bigger and better than themselves and put the right officials in there. And once they do, and once we choose who we decide, because we set up our government in such a way that no matter if you're from Alaska, no matter if you're from Canada, Florida, even some of the territories, we get to choose and try to find the right fit to make our nation better for the needs of the people. And we have to make sure that when we choose and when we vote, because our forefathers set it up this way, in a brilliant way, that all voices are heard on a large scale with millions upon billions of people, their voices all can be heard with proper representation, so that the person we choose will do the best that they can to meet the needs of the people. I hope this video makes sense, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.